color schemes might be the hardest decision we have to make in this hobby, and could be the only thing stopping us from starting a new project. This week I'll show you not only how I decided on mine, but also the models I went through in the hopes to save you time and effort. When planning this Chaos Warrior army, I knew I would go for my two-step painting method, as previously shown on my Grimdark tutorial, since the models had a lot of detail on them. Other than that, I knew I wanted black armor and to keep the colors to a minimum, so I began with two test models, trying an all-over metallic color and another one with a blacker armor, to have separation between it and the chainmail. So I moved on to mix an oil wash, and after applying it all over one model, added more brown to the mix to try out another variation. Here's how the two tones ended up looking. After letting it sit for 40 minutes, I dabbed at the model with a brush soaked in odorless solvent to reveal the most prominent surfaces. And wherever I saw paint pooling, I snatched the excess with a dry brush. The result was a fail. Not only the armor didn't read as black, but there was no definition between the different elements. I quickly decided to move on to plan B. A Lich King inspired look. Brighter colors should yield better definitions in the recesses. So after mixing a very dark blue oil wash, I went through the same process as before. This time I was much happy with the result. The dark wash pulling on the recesses separated the elements from each other since my base colors weren't as dark. So I tried out two other models, but incorporating different amounts of brown to the oil mixes, plus testing different tones of blue for the clothing. I thought with these two extra tests I would finally come up with the perfect scheme. But after taking the best from each and painting another two models, testing different oil consistencies, I realized this was not how I had envisioned my army. I realized that the armor, the main element of these models, was lacking. So I swapped to non-metallic paints plus a dry brush to enhance the edges. And after applying a simple black oil wash, I knew I was on the right track. My armor was black, different from the chainmail, and there was separation between each element. I decided to enhance the armor with a second lighter dry brush, add a pinch of brown to the wash for a more dirty look, and swap the main color to the one I knew already worked. And so I came upon my scheme. On the final version, I swapped the final armor highlight, which got a yellowish tint from the wash, with a metallic dry brush and used a bone color for the horns on the helmet. Now I'll recap the paint recipe and the method I chose for my army. A single metallic color, 3 gray tones which you could honestly mix from black and white, 2 browns for leather and wood, our main color, in this case yellow, a bone color for the horns and skulls, and a light brown for the fur. Since I was going to dry brush the armor, this had to be painted first, not to mess up any other parts of the model. I tried having a different helmet color for the champion, but decided against it in the end. After the armor, I blocked out the yellow, followed by the metallics since the chainmail went over the clothes, and from there the order wasn't different. I then covered the whole model in an almost black-brown oil mix, let it sit for 40 minutes and applied the first coat of thinner all over to reveal the upper areas. After letting the thinner dry a little from this first cleanup, I went over each model again, cleaning up specific spots I wanted to be brighter, like knees, helmets and horns. For the bases, I used a mix of purple and brown and pure purple for the stones, followed by a dry brush. The purple will create contrast with the yellow, and having a bright base will help the black armor stand out more. While I could have painted over my first test models as I was figuring out what my scheme would be, I decided to keep them around to document how my progression went, in the hopes the experience can provide you some insight before you begin your next army.